Dr. Maria Santos stood at the window of her small apartment, watching the rain fall on the busy streets below. The letter in her hands felt heavier than paper should feel. She had read it 5 times already, but the words still seemed impossible to believe. The Galactic Council wanted to see her, not just any human, but her specifically. After 3 years of Earth trying to get noticed by the advanced alien races that controlled most of the galaxy, they had finally sent an invitation. Maria was to represent all of humanity at the great space station called Nexus Prime. The invitation was simple and cold. It said she had 30 days to travel to the station and present herself to the Council of Advanced Species. She would need to prove that humans deserved a place among the galaxy's ruling races. The letter did not say what would happen if she failed. Maria walked to her kitchen and made coffee with shaking hands. She was a doctor who worked with refugee children. She was not a politician or a military leader. She had never even been to space before. Why had they chosen her? The answer came in a second letter that arrived that afternoon. This one was from Earth's government. They explained that the aliens had asked for someone who represented the best of humanity. They had studied Earth's population for months through their advanced technology. Dr. Santos had been chosen because of her work helping children from war zones and disaster areas. Over the past 10 years, Maria had saved hundreds of young lives. She had worked in bombed hospitals, refugee camps, and areas hit by earthquakes and floods. She spoke 6 languages and had medical training that few others possessed. The government letter said the aliens wanted to see what made humans special, and Maria's work with children showed human compassion better than anything else. Maria felt scared but also honored. If the aliens thought she could represent humanity, she would try her best. She spent the next week learning everything she could about the 5 alien races that controlled the Galactic Council. The Zephyrians were made of living crystal. They could change the shape of matter just by thinking about it. Their cities were perfect geometric shapes that floated in space. They valued order and precision above all else. The Kalari were a hive mind race, billions of ant-like creatures that shared one massive brain. They could solve incredibly complex problems because all their minds worked together. They had never known war or conflict because they all thought the same thoughts. The Luminids were beings of pure energy who lived inside special containment suits. They could control electricity and light with their will. Their technology was so advanced it seemed like magic to humans. The depths came from ocean worlds. They looked like giant squids but were incredibly intelligent. They could change their biology to survive in any environment. They had turned dead planets into living worlds, using only biological processes. The Nexari were machines that had gained consciousness millions of years ago. They had perfect logical minds and could calculate the future with amazing accuracy. They had built computers the size of moons. Each race was thousands of years more advanced than humanity. They controlled vast areas of space and had technologies that humans could barely understand. Maria wondered what she could possibly show them that would impress them. The day before her departure, Maria received unexpected news. The children's shelter where she volunteered had been closed due to funding problems. 4 children who had been in her care for months now had nowhere to go. The government placement system was overloaded, and the children would have to wait weeks before new homes could be found. Jake Barnes was 6 years old. His parents had died in a factory explosion, and he had been living at the shelter for 8 months. He was smart and curious, but had nightmares about loud noises. His little sister Lisa was only 4. She cried whenever Jake was not nearby, and carried a stuffed rabbit everywhere she went. Kai Patel was 8 years old and came from a family of refugees. His parents had been killed in a civil war, and he had traveled across 3 countries to reach safety. He spoke 4 languages and was learning to read English. He wanted to be a space pilot when he grew up. Baby Amy Rodriguez was 18 months old. Her teenage mother had left her at a hospital with only a note that said, "Please take care of her." Amy was healthy and happy, but needed constant attention like all babies. Maria looked at the 4 children and made a decision that would change everything. She could not leave them behind. The shelter workers had no other options, and the children trusted her. She had 3 weeks of space travel ahead of her, followed by meetings with the most powerful beings in the galaxy. It would be difficult, but she could not abandon the children. She spent her last day on Earth getting special permission to bring the children with her. The government officials thought she was crazy. They said the aliens would not understand why she brought children to such an important meeting. Maria explained that caring for children was what made her qualified to represent humanity in the first place. The space transport ship was large but basic. It would take 3 weeks to reach Nexus Prime using the fastest human technology. Maria had bought a special carrier that would let her keep the children close to her during the long journey. It looked like a hiking backpack, but was designed to safely hold small children in zero gravity. As their ship left Earth's atmosphere, Maria watched her home planet grow smaller through the window. Jake pressed his face against the glass beside her, amazed by the view. Lisa held her stuffed rabbit and asked when they would see the crystal people. Kai studied a picture book about spaceships while Amy slept peacefully in Maria's arms. The other passengers on the transport ship were diplomats and business people. They stared at Maria with confusion. No one traveled to important meetings with 4 young children. Some of them whispered that she was making a mistake that would embarrass all of humanity. Maria ignored their comments. She knew that bringing the children was right. If the aliens wanted to understand what made humans special, they needed to see how humans cared for their young. Every night as she tucked the children into their sleeping pods, Maria felt more confident about her decision. During the 3-week journey, she taught the children about the different alien races they would meet. She helped Jake with his math lessons and read stories to Lisa. She practiced English words with Kai and played simple games with Amy. The children became excited about meeting aliens, not scared. As Nexus Prime appeared on their ship's viewing screen, Maria felt ready for whatever would come next. She had her credentials with her, sleeping peacefully in the carrier on her back. Nexus Prime was beyond anything Maria had ever imagined. The space station stretched for hundreds of miles in every direction, a massive structure that looked like a crystal flower floating among the stars. Ships from dozens of different worlds docked at its countless ports, bringing visitors from across the galaxy. Maria's transport ship was tiny compared to the alien vessels around them. She watched through the window as a Zephyrian crystal ship changed its shape while moving, flowing like liquid metal. A Kalari hive ship looked like a moving city with millions of small openings where the ant-like creatures flew in and out. The Luminid vessels glowed with internal light, beautiful and mysterious. The docking process took hours. Station workers who looked like floating robots guided their ship to a small, human-designated port. Maria gathered the children and their few belongings, making sure everyone was ready for the artificial gravity they would soon experience. Jake was excited and asked 100 questions about everything he saw. Lisa stayed close to Maria, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Kai helped carry some of their supplies and tried to translate the alien writing they saw on signs. Amy babbled happily, not understanding that they were in the most important place in the galaxy. The station's interior was even more impressive than its outside. The main corridor was a transparent tube that stretched for miles, giving visitors a view of space in all directions. Gravity worked differently in different sections, and Maria had to be careful as they moved between areas. They passed alien beings that Maria had only seen in pictures. Tall, graceful creatures with too many arms walked beside floating gas clouds that somehow moved with purpose. She saw beings made of metal and others that looked like walking plants. The children stared in wonder, no longer scared, but amazed by the diversity of life in the universe. Their destination was the council chamber, located at the very center of the station. Maria had 3 hours before her appointment, so she found a small rest area where they could eat and prepare. The food dispensers provided basic human meals, though everything tasted slightly artificial. While the children ate, Maria reviewed her notes one last time. She had prepared a presentation about human achievements in medicine, art, and science. She had brought recordings of human music and examples of human literature translated into the galactic common language. She had charts showing human population, growth, and technological development. But as she looked at Jake helping Lisa with her food, and Kai entertaining Amy with funny faces, Maria realized that her real presentation was sitting right there with her. These children represented everything good about humanity. They showed human resilience, curiosity, love, and hope for the future. The time came to report to the council chamber. Maria put on the special carrier that held the children, making sure they were comfortable and secure. Jake and Lisa rode on her back while she carried Amy in her arms. Kai walked beside her, holding on to the carrier's support strap. The council chamber was a dome made of transparent crystal that offered a view of the entire galaxy. At the center stood 5 platforms, each designed for one of the ruling species. The chamber was filled with observers from hundreds of different worlds, all there to watch humanity's first appearance before the council. Maria had arrived at the perfect time to watch the other presentations. Each species that wanted to join the council had to prove their worth by demonstrating their greatest achievements. The Zephyrian representative stood on a platform that looked like a giant crystal flower. As the entire chamber watched, she began to change the molecular structure of the air around her. Simple gases became complex patterns of light and color that told the story of her species' mastery over matter. The display was beautiful and terrifying, showing power that could create or destroy worlds. The Kalari representative was actually a group of thousands of small creatures that moved as one perfect unit. They demonstrated their hive mind by solving complex mathematical problems in seconds, their individual minds working together like parts of a vast computer. They showed how they had ended war and poverty by sharing all thoughts and resources equally. The Luminid representative appeared as a brilliant figure of contained energy. She manipulated the chamber's lighting systems to create a symphony of color and sound that told the story of her people's evolution from physical beings to pure energy. The performance showed how they had transcended the limitations of biological life. The depths representative filled a section of the chamber with water and began changing her biological structure. She grew new organs and abilities in real time, showing how her species could adapt to any environment. She demonstrated how they had brought life to dead worlds by reshaping themselves to create new ecosystems. The Nexari representative was a sophisticated machine intelligence housed in a body that looked like flowing liquid metal. He displayed holographic calculations that predicted the future with incredible accuracy, showing how his species had achieved perfect logical thinking and could solve any problem through pure computation. Each demonstration was more impressive than the last. The alien technologies on display were so advanced that they seemed like magic to human eyes. Maria felt very small and primitive compared to these ancient, powerful civilizations. Then it was her turn. A floating platform moved into position for her, and a voice spoke in perfect English through hidden speakers. Human Representative Dr. Maria Santos, please approach the center platform. The Council will now evaluate your species qualifications for membership. Maria walked slowly to the platform, very aware of the thousands of alien eyes watching her every move. The children sensed the importance of the moment and stayed perfectly quiet. She could feel their warm weight against her back and arms, giving her strength and purpose. Council Prime. Zex 9 of the Zephyrians spoke first. Her voice was like the sound of wind chimes, beautiful but cold. Human Representative, the Council has observed your species for some time. You are young and primitive compared to those who sit on this council. What evidence do you present that humanity deserves a place among the galaxy's ruling races? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Maria could feel the weight of her entire species' future pressing down on her shoulders. Every human alive was counting on her to say the right thing, to prove they belonged among the stars. But as she felt Jake shift slightly on her back and heard Amy make a small sound in her arms, Maria realized she did not need to say anything at all. Her credentials were already with her. Maria stood in the center of the great crystal dome, surrounded by the most powerful beings in the galaxy. The silence stretched like a held breath as thousands of alien eyes waited for her to present humanity's greatest achievements. She could feel the weight of expectation pressing down on her from all sides. Council Prime Zex 9 waited with crystalline patience for an answer. The other council members watched with varying degrees of interest and skepticism. In the observation areas, representatives from hundreds of worlds leaned forward to see what the primitive humans would offer as proof of their worth. Maria took a deep breath and smiled. Council Prime, you ask for my credentials. I carry them with me always. Without another word, she began to turn around slowly, letting the aliens see what she had brought to this most important meeting in human history. As she turned, gasps and strange sounds echoed through the chamber. The specialized carrier on Maria's back became visible to the entire assembly. Through its transparent sections, 4 small human children could be seen sleeping peacefully, unaware that they were at the center of a galactic moment that would change everything. Jake Barnes, 6 years old, slept with his arms wrapped around a small book about dinosaurs. His face was relaxed and peaceful, free from the nightmares that sometimes troubled him at night. His sister Lisa, only 4, held her stuffed rabbit close to her chest, her tiny thumb in her mouth. Even in sleep, she stayed close to her brother, 8-year-old. Kai Patel rested with a language learning tablet in his small hands, still working on his English lessons even in dreams. His dark hair fell across his forehead, and he wore the serious expression of a child who had seen too much but still believed in tomorrow. Baby Amy Rodriguez, 18 months old, slept the deep sleep of the very young. Her tiny chest rose and fell with perfect rhythm, and occasionally she made small, happy sounds in her dreams. Her small fingers were curled around a soft toy that Maria had given her weeks ago. the chamber fell into complete silence. Not one alien spoke or moved. The concept they were witnessing was so foreign to their understanding that their advanced minds struggled to process it. An individual bringing dependent offspring to a formal governmental proceeding was beyond their experience. Maria completed her turn and faced the council again. "These are humanity's credentials," she said simply, her voice clear and strong. "We do not abandon our children, even for the galaxy's most important meetings." The silence broke as confused murmurs filled the chamber. Alien languages mixed together in a babble of bewilderment. Translation devices worked overtime as species tried to explain to each other what they were seeing. The Nexari delegate was the first to find words. His mechanical voice carried a tone of pure confusion. "Dr. Santos, we do not understand. You have brought offspring to a council meeting. This appears to be a significant operational error." "No error," Maria replied calmly, adjusting the carrier straps to ensure the children remained comfortable. "These children are orphans. Jake and Lisa lost their parents in an industrial accident. Kai's family died in a war. Amy was abandoned as a baby. Rather than leave them in institutional care, I chose to adopt them. They come with me because they are my responsibility and my joy." The Kalari representatives spoke through their hive-mind connection, thousands of voices joining in harmony. "This behavior pattern does not compute with efficient resource allocation. Why would an individual compromise their effectiveness by maintaining biological dependence?" "Because they are children," Maria answered, as if the question itself was strange. "They need love, protection, guidance, and care. They are not burdens to be calculated or resources to be allocated. They are the future of our species and our most precious treasure." Council Prime. Zex-9's crystalline form shifted colors as she processed this information. "In our observations of your species, we noted that humans often care for offspring not biologically related to them. We assumed this was due to primitive confusion about genetic relationships. You are saying this is intentional behavior?" "Completely intentional," Maria confirmed. "We believe that every child deserves a family, regardless of their biological origins. Love is not limited by genetics." The Depth's representative made sounds like water flowing over rocks, their translation device struggling with emotional concepts that had no equivalent in their language. "Your species deliberately chooses inefficiency. You accept decreased personal performance to maintain non-essential biological units?" "Non-essential?" Maria's voice carried a note of surprise, but not anger. "Children are the most essential thing in the universe. They are why we explore space, why we develop technology, why we strive to build better societies. What is the point of advancement if not to create a better world for our children?" During this exchange, Jake began to stir in the carrier. The sound of voices had reached through his sleep, and he was slowly waking up. Maria felt him move and spoke softly over her shoulder. "It's okay, sweetheart. We're at the Crystal People place, remember? Just like in the pictures. The entire council watched in fascination as Maria's voice changed when she spoke to the child. The formal diplomatic tone disappeared, replaced by something warm and gentle that they had never heard before in their chambers. Jake's sleepy voice could be heard clearly in the silent chamber. "Are those the Crystal People, Mama Maria? They're really tall." "Yes, they are. Would you like to say hello?" Jake lifted his head and looked around at the assembled aliens with wide, curious eyes. Instead of fear, his face showed wonder and excitement. "Hello, crystal people, I'm Jake. Are you really made of crystal? That's so cool." The innocence and enthusiasm in the child's voice had an immediate effect on the chamber. Several alien species made sounds that their translation devices labeled as pleasure or amusement. The Zephyrian Council Prime actually changed colors. Cycling through what Maria had learned were expressions of surprise and interest. Lisa began to wake up as, well, disturbed by her brother's voice. She looked around with sleepy eyes and saw the aliens. Instead of crying, she waved her small hand at them. "Hi, I'm Lisa. This is my bunny." She held up her stuffed rabbit for everyone to see. Amy chose that moment to wake up completely, making the happy, gurgling sounds that babies make when they feel safe and loved. Maria shifted her weight to support the baby better while keeping the older children comfortable in their carrier. The aliens watched this domestic scene with growing amazement. They were witnessing something that none of their advanced civilizations had preserved: the natural, unguarded interaction between adult and child, the immediate trust and love that humans showed to their young. The Luminid representative pulsed, with different colors as she spoke. "Dr. Santos, your offspring show no fear of us. Our appearance would typically cause distress in young beings. I told them about all of you during our journey here," Maria explained. "Children are naturally curious about new things. Fear usually comes from not understanding. I made sure they understood that you were friends who wanted to meet them." Kai was fully awake now and looking around with intelligent eyes. He spoke up in his accented but clear English. "Dr. Santos taught us that different does not mean scary. You are all very beautiful in different ways." The 8-year-old's mature observation sent another wave of surprise through the chamber. Here was a human child who had lost everything but still saw beauty in the unknown. His resilience and openness impressed even the logical Nexari. The council chamber buzzed with activity as the 5 ruling species tried to understand what they were witnessing. Their advanced minds, capable of processing vast amounts of information and solving complex problems, struggled with the simple concept of a parent caring for children who were not biologically related to her. The Kalari delegate spoke first, their thousands of unified voices creating an eerie harmony. "Dr. Santos, our hive mind has analyzed your behavior patterns. We calculate a 73% reduction in your personal efficiency due to the care requirements of these offspring. How do you justify this massive loss of productivity?" Maria felt Jake lean forward with interest at the alien's strange way of speaking. She answered while gently steadying him in the carrier. "I don't see it as a loss. Caring for children has made me a better doctor, a better person, and a better representative of humanity. The love and purpose they give me increases my abilities, not decreases them." The Nexari delegate's mechanical form shifted as internal processors analyzed her words. "This does not compute. Emotional attachments create logical errors and poor decision-making. Our species eliminated such inefficiencies millions of years ago. How can you claim that emotional bonds improve performance?" Before Maria could answer, Lisa spoke up in her clear 4-year-old voice. "Are you a robot? You sound like the robots in Jake's video games." The directness of the child's question surprised the Nexari delegate, who was not accustomed to being addressed so casually. "I am an artificial intelligence, young human. My species transcended biological limitations long ago." "That's sad," Lisa said with the honest sympathy that only children possess. "Do you get hugs?" The question created a moment of complete silence. The concept of physical affection as emotional comfort was not something the Nexari had considered in eons. Other council members watched with interest as the machine intelligence processed this unexpected inquiry. "I do not require physical affection," the Nexari finally replied. "Such needs are biological inefficiencies." "Everyone needs hugs," Lisa stated with absolute certainty. "Mama Maria says hugs make everything better." The depths representative made flowing sounds that translated as deep thought. "Dr. Santos, we must understand this behavior. In our society, offspring care is managed through biological programming. Adults release chemical signals that automatically trigger protective responses. We do not choose to care for young ones. We are biologically compelled. You are saying humans consciously choose this burden?" "It's not a burden," Maria explained patiently, bouncing Amy gently as the baby began to fuss. "It's a privilege. These children chose to trust me with their safety and happiness. I chose to accept that trust. Love is always a choice." Kai raised his hand politely, as if he were in school. "May I ask a question?" Council Prime X9's crystalline form shifted with what appeared to be amusement. "You may speak, young one. If you are all so smart and powerful, why don't you have children with you? Don't you want your families to see important meetings?" The question struck at something fundamental that the aliens had not considered. The boys' innocent curiosity had identified a gap in their understanding that their advanced intellects had missed. The Luminid representative pulsed with different colors as she formulated a response. "Our offspring are maintained in specialized facilities designed for optimal development. They do not accompany adults to formal proceedings." "That sounds lonely," Jake observed, his 6-year-old logic cutting straight to the heart of the matter. "Don't they miss you? Don't you miss them?" The aliens exchanged what appeared to be surprised communications. The concept of missing someone, of emotional attachment creating desire for proximity, was something they had either evolved beyond or never experienced. Council Prime X9 spoke directly to Maria. "Dr. Santos, your offspring display remarkable composure and intelligence for their age. Is this typical of human young?" "Children are naturally curious and adaptable," Maria replied. "Jake loves science and asks questions about everything. Lisa has an artist's eye and sees beauty everywhere. Kai survived unimaginable hardships and still believes in hope. Amy is just beginning to explore the world, but she already shows signs of being fearless and friendly." "But surely this emotional investment creates vulnerability," the Kalari insisted. "What if harm came to these offspring? Would this not compromise your judgment and effectiveness?" Maria's expression grew serious for the first time. "If someone threatened these children, I would do anything to protect them. That's not a vulnerability, that's the source of humanity's greatest strength. We fight hardest when we're protecting those we love." Amy began to cry, the unfamiliar environment, and voices finally overwhelming her baby senses. Maria immediately shifted into action, speaking softly to comfort the child while checking to see if she needed anything. The aliens watched in fascination as Maria's behavior changed instantly. Her attention focused completely on the baby's needs, while still maintaining awareness of the other children and the formal proceedings. She found Amy's favorite toy in a side pocket and produced a bottle of formula that had been kept at the perfect temperature. "How do you maintain situational awareness while attending to the offspring's needs?" the Nexari asked, genuinely puzzled by the multitasking he was observing. "Practice," Maria said simply, as Amy settled down to drink her bottle. Parents learn to do many things at once. It becomes automatic. Jake had been listening to the conversation with growing concern. Are you saying your people don't take care of their babies? Who feeds them and plays with them and reads them stories? The question revealed the vast gulf between human and alien understanding of child rearing. The council members found themselves trying to explain concepts of automated care systems and institutional upbringing to a 6-year-old who could not imagine children growing up without personal love and attention. Automated systems provide optimal nutrition and education, the Zephyrian explained. Physical and intellectual development is carefully monitored and enhanced. But who tucks them in at night? Lisa asked, genuinely worried about alien children she had never met. Who kisses their always better? Who tells them everything will be okay when they have bad dreams? The aliens had no answers for these questions. Their advanced civilizations had solved the technical challenges of raising young, but they had lost something in the process that they were only now beginning to recognize. Kai, who had been quietly thinking about everything he heard, finally spoke up. I think maybe your people forgot something important when they got so smart. My mama and papa died, but Mama Maria loves me just like they did. That love is what makes me want to learn and grow and be better. Without love, what's the point of being smart? The 8-year-old's words hung in the air like a challenge to everything the aliens thought they knew about advanced civilization. They had conquered space, mastered technology, and achieved perfect efficiency in almost every area of existence. But they had never considered that love might be the most important advancement of all. Maria felt proud of the children as she watched. The aliens struggle with concepts that seemed obvious to human minds. The questions the children asked were simple, but they struck at fundamental truths about what made life worth living. Perhaps, she said softly, the real question is not whether humanity is advanced enough to join your council, but whether your civilizations remember what advancement is truly for. As the children became fully awake and alert, the council chamber transformed into something unprecedented in galactic history. The formal, austere meeting of advanced civilizations became a classroom where 4 human children inadvertently taught the galaxy's most powerful beings about love, family, and what it truly meant to be alive. Jake, now fully aware of where he was, looked around the crystal dome with wide eyes full of wonder. Mama Maria, this place is amazing. Can you ask the crystal people how they made it float in space? Maria smiled and translated his question to Council Prime Zex 9. Jake would like to know how you built this station. He's very interested in engineering and construction. The Zephyrian leader's crystalline form shifted colors, displaying what appeared to be pleased surprise. The young one has an analytical mind. Very well. She began to explain in simple terms how molecular manipulation allowed her people to grow structures directly from raw materials, shaping them at the atomic level. Jake listened with rapt attention, asking follow-up questions that showed remarkable understanding for a 6-year-old. So you don't need hammers or welders? You just think really hard and the metal changes shape? That's like magic, but science magic. The Nexari delegate found himself intrigued by the child's description. Science. Magic is an interesting phrase. You understand that our technology follows natural laws, not supernatural forces? Sure, Jake said confidently. Magic always follows rules, just like science. That's what makes it work. My dad used to say that any science you don't understand looks like magic until you learn how it works. Maria felt a pang of sadness at Jake's mention of his father, but also pride at how the boy remembered and honored his parents' wisdom. The aliens, however, were fascinated by this simple but profound observation about the relationship between knowledge and wonder. Meanwhile, Lisa had become enchanted by the Luminid representative's constant color changes. "You're so pretty. You look like a rainbow that can talk. Do you always sparkle like that?" The energy being pulsed with what appeared to be pleasure at the compliment. "My colors reflect my emotional and mental states, young one. I am pleased by your appreciation. Can you make flowers?" Lisa asked hopefully. "I love flowers. Mama Maria has pictures of flowers from Earth in my book." To everyone's surprise, the Luminid began to shape her energy into delicate, flower-like patterns that danced around her form. The display was beautiful and graceful, showing a creative side that formal council meetings never revealed. Lisa clapped her hands in delight. "It's beautiful. You're like an artist made of light." The Luminid had never been called an artist before. Her species valued efficiency and energy manipulation, but they had forgotten the joy of creating beauty for its own sake. Lisa's innocent appreciation reminded her of something her people had lost in their pursuit of pure energy existence. Kai, meanwhile, had struck up a conversation with the depth's representative. His experience as a refugee had given him wisdom beyond his years, and he was genuinely curious about different ways of life. "Ms. Depths, you said your people can change their bodies. Does that mean you never feel trapped or stuck? That must be nice." The aquatic being made thoughtful, bubbling sounds. "We adapt our forms as needed, yes. But you speak of feeling trapped. This suggests internal limitation rather than physical ones." Kai nodded seriously. "When bad things happened to my family, I felt trapped by sadness. But Mama Maria taught me that feelings can change too if you work at it. She said healing is like growing. It takes time, but it happens if you take care of yourself." The concept of emotional adaptation as a parallel to biological adaptation struck the depth's representative as profound. Her species had mastered physical change, but had never considered that emotional flexibility might be equally important. Amy, now content with her bottle, began to babble happily at the assembled aliens. Her baby sounds were meaningless words, but her tone was clearly friendly and social. She reached out tiny hands toward the different beings, showing no fear of their strange appearances. The Kalari delegate found themselves unexpectedly affected by the baby's obvious trust and happiness. The youngest offspring shows no defensive behaviors. She approaches us with complete openness. "She's never learned to fear anything she doesn't understand," Maria explained, gently supporting Amy as the baby tried to lean toward the aliens. "Babies are born trusting the world. Fear is something we learn later, usually when we need it for protection." "But surely this makes her vulnerable," the Kalari observed. "Right now, yes," Maria agreed. "But it also makes her capable of unlimited love and acceptance. As she grows, I'll teach her to be cautious when necessary, but I hope she never loses her natural openness to new experiences and new friends." Jake had moved on to asking the Kalari about their hive mind. "Do you all think the same thoughts? Don't you ever want to think something different from everyone else?" The question touched on something the Kalari had never questioned about their existence. Individual thoughts would create chaos and conflict, they explained. Unity of mind brings peace and efficiency. "But don't you get bored?" Jake pressed. "I mean, if everyone thinks the same thing, who comes up with new ideas? Who makes jokes? Who disagrees so you can have interesting arguments? The concept of deliberately seeking disagreement for intellectual stimulation was foreign to the hive mind. They had achieved perfect consensus, but Jake's questions made them wonder if they had also eliminated the creative tension that came from different perspectives. Lisa had discovered that she could make the Luminid's colors change by singing. Her sweet 4-year-old voice filled the chamber as she sang a simple song about rainbows, and the energy being's form shifted and flowed in harmony with the melody. "You like music?" Lisa exclaimed happily. "Do your people sing songs?" "We communicate through energy harmonics," the Luminid replied slowly. "But we had not considered that sound patterns could be pleasurable rather than merely informational." "Everything's better with music," Lisa stated with absolute certainty. "Mama Maria sings to us when we're sad and when we're happy and when we can't sleep. Songs make feelings stronger." The Nexari delegate had been computing the interactions he observed, trying to understand the efficiency losses and gains of emotional bonding. "Dr. Santos, we have observed that your offspring's emotional states directly affect your own. This would seem to create systematic vulnerabilities in your decision-making processes." Before Maria could answer, Kai spoke up. "That's not a vulnerability. That's connection. When someone you love is happy, you feel happy too. When they're scared, you feel protective. It makes you work harder to make things better for everyone." "But what if you must choose between their welfare and the greater good?" the Nexari pressed. "That's easy," Jake said with the simple confidence of childhood. "You find a way to save everyone. That's what heroes do in stories." "Reality is more complex than stories," the Nexari pointed out. "Maybe," Maria said gently, "but stories teach us to look for solutions that save everyone instead of accepting that someone has to be sacrificed. Children remind us to keep looking for the hero's solution, even when it seems impossible." Amy chose that moment to reach out toward Council Prime Zex 9, babbling what sounded like a greeting. The crystalline being hesitated, then slowly extended one faceted finger toward the baby. Amy grabbed it with tiny hands and laughed with delight at the smooth, warm crystal surface. The sight of the galaxy's most powerful leader allowing a human baby to play with her finger created a moment of profound silence. No one had ever seen a Council Prime interact with a child. The image challenged every assumption about dignity, formality, and the proper conduct of serious beings. "She is remarkably trusting," Zex 9 observed, her voice softer than before. "She knows you're safe," Maria said simply. "Children are excellent judges of character. They can sense kindness, even when it's hidden under formality or fear." As the interactions continued, something remarkable was happening in the chamber. The formal barriers between species were dissolving as ancient beings rediscovered wonder through children's eyes. The Council was learning that advancement without love might not be advancement at all. The transformation in the Council chamber was remarkable to witness. What had begun as a formal evaluation of humanity's worthiness had become something unprecedented. A lesson in love taught by children to the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. Depth Singer. Coral, the representative of the aquatic depths, had been quietly observing the interactions between Maria and the children. Her species' ability to adapt their biology to any environment had made them master observers of behavioral patterns. What she was seeing challenged everything she thought she knew about efficient civilization. "Dr. Santos," Coral said, her voice like waves lapping against a shore. I must ask for clarification. You speak of choosing to care for offspring not related to you genetically. Our species understands biological imperatives. We care for our young because chemical signals compel us to do so. But you suggest humans consciously decide to accept what appears to be significant burden. Why? Maria felt Amy's warm weight in her arms and smiled. Because love isn't a burden. It's a gift that grows stronger when you share it. When I chose to care for these children, I didn't lose anything. I gained purpose, joy, and a reason to be better than I was before. But surely this creates inefficiency, the depth's representative pressed. You must divide your attention, resources, and energy between multiple dependents. How can this improve your capabilities? Before Maria could respond, Kai looked up from the educational tablet he had been quietly working on during the conversation. May I show you something? The aliens watched with curiosity as the 8-year-old activated his learning device. On the screen appeared a complex mathematical problem that would challenge many adults. Without hesitation, Kai began solving it, step by step, explaining his reasoning clearly in his accented but precise English. I learned this problem-solving method from Mama Maria, he explained as he worked. She taught me that when you care about someone, you want to learn more so. You can help them and make them proud. Love makes you smarter, not dumber. The Nexari delegates' mechanical form shifted as processors analyzed what they had just witnessed. The child's mathematical reasoning is advanced for his age. Dr. Santos, how did you accelerate his cognitive development? I didn't accelerate anything, Maria replied. I just showed him that learning was important and that I believed in his ability to succeed. Children will achieve amazing things when they know someone loves them and has faith in their potential. Jake, who had been listening to the conversation while studying the crystal structures around the chamber, suddenly spoke up. Is that why your people are all alone? Because you stopped believing in each other? The question struck the council like a physical blow. Jake's innocent observation had identified something that their advanced minds had overlooked. Each of their species had achieved great technological and intellectual advancement, but they had also become increasingly isolated from personal connections. Council, Prime X9's crystalline form shifted through several color patterns before she found words. Young Jake. What do you mean by alone? Well, Jake said, thinking carefully about his answer, you're all really smart and can do amazing things, but you don't have families with you. You don't have people who love you just because of who you are, not because of what you can do. That sounds lonely. Lisa looked up from her drawing. She had been sketching pictures of the different aliens with crayons Maria had brought. Do you have mamas and papas? Do they read you stories and tuck you in at night? The Luminid representative pulsed with confused colors. Our species does not maintain individual family units. Young ones are cared for by the collective until they achieve energy transcendence. That's so sad, Lisa exclaimed with genuine distress. Who loves you when you're little? Who tells you you're special and important? The energy being had no answer for this question. Love as an individual, personal experience was not part of their collective existence. They had achieved perfect efficiency, but they had lost something essential in the process. The Kalari delegate spoke through their unified voice. Dr. Santos, we begin to understand that human child rearing involves emotional bonding beyond simple resource provision. But how does this benefit the larger society? Our analysis suggests that emotional attachments create bias and irrationality. Maria. shifted Amy to her other arm, and considered her response carefully. Our emotional attachments don't create bias. They create purpose. Everything we do as a species, every advancement we make, every problem we solve, is motivated by our desire to create a better world for our children. Can you provide specific examples? The Nexari requested. Of course, Maria replied. We developed faster space travel because we wanted to explore the galaxy together. We created better medical technology because we couldn't bear to watch children suffer from diseases we could cure. We built educational systems because we believed every child deserved the chance to reach their full potential. Amy began to fuss slightly, and Maria automatically started swaying gently to comfort her. The motion was so natural and unconscious that she didn't realize she was doing it until she noticed the aliens watching with fascination. You respond to her distress without conscious thought, Coral observed. Your body automatically adjusted to provide comfort. Love becomes instinct, Maria explained. When you truly care for someone, helping them feels as natural as breathing. Kai had finished his math problem and was now helping Jake understand a more advanced concept. The two boys worked together, with Kai patiently explaining difficult ideas in ways his younger friend could understand. Lisa had moved closer to draw pictures of both boys while they studied. The Depths representative watched this interaction with growing amazement. The older offspring is teaching the younger one, but receives no tangible benefit for this effort. Why does he choose to share his knowledge? Because Kai loves Jake and wants him to succeed, Maria said simply. Knowledge isn't something you lose when you share it. It's something that grows stronger when you pass it on to others. The Nexari delegate ran complex calculations on the efficiency of peer-to-peer learning versus institutional education. The results were surprising. Our analysis indicates that the emotional investment in the learning process creates better retention and application of knowledge than optimal programming. Because Jake wants to make Kai proud of him, Maria confirmed. And Kai wants Jake to understand because he remembers how good it felt when someone believed in his ability to learn. Love creates a cycle of motivation that no external system can replicate. Council Prime. Zex 9 had been silent for several minutes. Her crystalline form cycling through complex color patterns that indicated deep thought. Finally, she spoke. Dr. Santos, we are beginning to comprehend that human civilization is not built upon technological achievement or resource management. It is built upon these emotional bonds you call love. Yes, Maria said. Every human advancement, from the wheel to the warp drive, was created by someone who wanted to make life better for people they cared about. We don't advance for the sake of advancement. We advance for the sake of love. But this would mean, the Luminid said slowly, that love is not a primitive emotion to be transcended, but a driving force for development. Amy looked around at the assembled aliens and made happy babbling sounds, reaching toward them with tiny fingers. The council members found themselves drawn to her innocent joy, each feeling something they had forgotten in their pursuit of perfection. Love is the most advanced force in the universe, Maria said softly. It's what turns individuals into families, families into communities, and communities into civilizations worth preserving. You've all achieved incredible things, but have you achieved anything worth loving? The question hung in the air like a challenge to everything the great civilizations thought they knew about progress and success. For the first time in millennia, the galaxy's most powerful beings were forced to confront the possibility that in their quest for advancement, They had left behind the very thing that made advancement meaningful. The philosophical discussion in the council chamber was interrupted by a sound that none of the assembled beings had expected. An emergency alert. The piercing tone echoed through the crystal dome, causing the children to look around with alarm, and the alien delegates to shift into immediate attention. A holographic display materialized in the center of the chamber, showing urgent text in multiple languages. Maria read the English version quickly, her face growing pale as she understood the magnitude of the crisis unfolding just 3 sectors away from Nexus Prime. "What does it say, Mama Maria?" Jake asked, sensing the change in atmosphere. "There's a ship in trouble, sweetheart," Maria replied, instinctively holding the children closer. "A big ship with lots of people on it." The Nexari delegate interfaced directly with the station's information systems, downloading the complete situation. Report in seconds. A civilian transport vessel carrying 847 refugees from the Kepler-7 conflict zone is experiencing cascading life support failures. Their atmospheric processors are offline, and they have approximately 4 hours of breathable air remaining. Council. Prime Zex 9's crystalline form darkened as she processed the information. The vessel is the independent freighter Hope's Journey. It was not designed for passenger transport, but was pressed into refugee service due to the crisis in the Kepler system. The Depth's representative accessed additional data through her own biological interfaces. The ship contains beings from multiple species, 412 adults and 200 juveniles, plus 235 elderly individuals. They are requesting immediate evacuation assistance. 200 children, Maria whispered, her heart breaking at the thought of so many young lives in danger. The Kalari delegate began running calculations through their hive mind. Rescue operations would require significant resource allocation. The nearest council fleet is 6 hours away. Independent merchant vessels in the area lack the capacity for mass evacuation. The probability of successful rescue using available assets is 23.7%. "That's not good enough," Maria said firmly. The Luminid representative pulsed with complex colors as she analyzed the situation. "The energy expenditure required for emergency life support extension would strain our systems. The logical allocation of resources suggests that rescue efforts would be inefficient given the low probability of success." Amy began to cry, sensing the tension in Maria's voice and posture. Lisa moved closer to comfort her baby sister while Jake and Kai listened to the adults with growing concern. "Are the children on the ship going to be okay?" Kai asked quietly. His own experience as a refugee had taught him to recognize when adults were discussing life and death situations. "We're going to do everything we can to help them," Maria assured him, though her voice carried worry she couldn't hide. The Nexari delegate continued his cold analysis. "The cost-benefit ratio of a rescue operation does not justify the expenditure. The refugees are stateless individuals with no political or economic value to council interests. Logical protocols suggest we should document the incident and move on." Maria's response was immediate and sharp. "Those are people we're talking about. Children are dying out there, and you're calculating their worth like they're cargo? We calculate efficiently to preserve resources for cases where success is more probable," the Nexari replied without emotion. "What about moral obligation?" Maria demanded. "What about the simple fact that they're alive and afraid and asking for help?" The council members exchanged glances that seemed to carry complex communications. Finally, Council Prime Zex 9 spoke. "Dr. Santos, this situation presents an excellent test of human philosophy versus practical governance. You claim that emotional attachments drive advancement and create better societies. How would humanity respond to this crisis? Before Maria could answer, her communication device chimed with an incoming message. She activated it, and the voice of Captain Ben Carter of the Earth vessel Endeavour filled the chamber. Dr. Santos, this is Captain Carter of the merchant vessel Endeavour. We've received the distress call from Hope's Journey. We're already changing course to intercept. Our ship isn't designed for mass evacuation, but we'll figure out how to make it work. We should reach them in 2 hours. The aliens listened with surprise as the transmission continued. I've also contacted every human ship within range. The colonist transport New Dawn is 3 hours out and can take about 300 passengers. The research vessel Discovery can handle maybe 100 more. The cargo hauler Big Sky has already dumped their freight and is converting their holds for emergency passenger space. Jake's face lit up with pride. See? Humans always help when people are in trouble. The Nexari delegate's mechanical form whirred as he processed this information. The human vessels are abandoning profitable activities to attempt a rescue with uncertain outcomes. This behavior contradicts optimal resource management protocols. It contradicts your protocols, Maria corrected. It perfectly matches human protocols. When children are in danger, you drop everything and save them. Captain Carter's voice continued through the communication device. Dr. Santos, I have to be honest with you. Even with all our ships working, together we can only evacuate about 600 people maximum. The Hope's Journey is carrying 847 souls. We're going to save as many as we can, but the unspoken reality hung in the air. Even humanity's immediate response would not be enough to save everyone. The human response confirms our analysis, the Kolari observed. Emotional decision-making leads to inefficient allocation of resources and incomplete solutions. Lisa looked up at Maria with wide, worried eyes. Mama Maria? Can't the crystal people help? They can do magic science things, out of the mouths of babes. Maria looked directly at Council Prime Zex-9. She's right. You have the power to save every single life on that ship. Your technology could stabilize their life support systems or evacuate them all in minutes. The only question is whether you choose to use that power. The question, Zex-9 replied carefully, is whether such intervention serves Council interests and long-term galactic stability. No, Maria said firmly. The question is whether you remember what power is for. You've all achieved incredible abilities and technologies, but what's the point of being powerful if you won't use that power to protect the innocent? Kai spoke up, his young voice carrying the weight of someone who had seen too much suffering. My mama used to say that being strong means protecting people who are weaker than you. If you don't do that, then you're just a bully, not a hero. The 8-year-old's words hit the council like a physical blow. Here was a child who had lost everything, calling them bullies for failing to act. The accusation was simple, direct, and devastatingly accurate. Amy had stopped crying and was looking around at the aliens with her large, trusting eyes. To her, these strange beings were just more adults who would surely help when children were in danger. Her innocent faith in their goodness was perhaps the most damning judgment of all. The chamber fell silent, except for the continued emergency alerts and status updates from the dying ship. The most powerful beings in the galaxy sat paralyzed by calculation and protocol while humans raced through space to attempt an impossible rescue. While you debate, Maria said quietly, children are dying. That's the difference between our species and yours. We don't calculate whether saving lives is worth the cost. We just saved them. The emergency alerts continued to echo through the council chamber as the crisis aboard Hope's journey grew more desperate with each passing minute. The human rescue fleet was still hours away, and even their heroic efforts would not be enough to save everyone aboard the dying ship. Maria stood in the center of the crystal dome, holding Amy close while the other children gathered around her. The weight of 847 lives hung in the air between humanity's representative and the 5 most powerful species in the galaxy. The aliens had the technology to save everyone with minimal effort, but they remained frozen by their own calculations and protocols. Council Prime Zex-9's crystalline form had been cycling through complex color patterns for several minutes, indicating intense internal debate. Finally, she spoke. Dr. Santos, you present us with a philosophical challenge that goes to the heart of what we believe civilization should be. I'm not presenting philosophy, Maria replied firmly. I'm presenting reality. There are children dying out there while we talk. The Luminid representative pulsed with agitated colors. But if we intervene in every crisis, where does it end? There are always beings in danger somewhere in the galaxy. We cannot save them all. You can save these ones, Jake said with the simple logic of childhood. That's what heroes do. They save the people they can. Lisa tugged on Maria's sleeve and whispered loudly enough for everyone to hear. Mama Maria, why won't they help? The kids? Don't they like children? The innocent question struck at something fundamental. The aliens had spent so long pursuing advancement and efficiency that they had forgotten the basic impulse to protect the young and vulnerable. Kai, who had been listening quietly to the debate, suddenly stood up straighter. May I tell you a story? The unexpected request caught the council off guard. You wish to tell a story? Zex-9 asked. Yes, please. It's about my family. The chamber fell silent as the 8-year-old refugee began to speak. His voice was clear and steady, carrying the wisdom of someone who had experienced both terrible loss and unexpected salvation. When the war came to my planet, my mama and papa tried to get us to safety. But the soldiers caught us at the spaceport. They said refugees weren't worth the fuel to transport. They said we should go back and die with dignity instead of running away like cowards. The aliens listened with growing discomfort as Kai continued his story. But then Captain Sarah Kim from the Earth medical ship Mercy heard what was happening. She wasn't supposed to be there. Earth ships weren't allowed in our system because of politics. But she came anyway because she heard children were in danger. Kai's voice grew stronger as he remembered the woman who had saved his life. Captain Kim told the soldiers that every child was worth saving, no matter where they came from or what their governments had done. She said that protecting children wasn't about politics or profit. It was about being decent beings in an indecent universe. Amy babbled softly in Maria's arms, as if she understood the importance of the story being told. Captain Kim could only save 50 people in her medical ship. There were thousands of refugees who needed help. But she didn't say it was impossible and give up. She saved the 50 she could, and then she called every human ship in the sector to come help with the rest. The Nexari delegate's mechanical form shifted as he processed the implications of the story. The Earth captain chose to violate political agreements to save lives that had no strategic value to her species. She chose to save children, Kai corrected. That's what humans do. And that's why I'm alive today to tell you that your calculations are wrong. Those lives you think aren't worth saving, they're worth everything to the people who love them. Council. Prime X9's color patterns suddenly shifted to what Maria recognized as decision and determination. Enough. The child speaks truth that our advanced minds have forgotten. The Zephyrian leader's crystalline form brightened as she activated emergency protocols that had not been used in centuries. All Council vessels, this is Prime Command. Immediate priority rescue mission authorized. Deploy all available assets to assist the refugee vessel Hope's journey. The Depth's representative made sounds of surprise that translated as shock. Zex-9. This action violates established resource allocation protocols. Then perhaps our protocols are flawed, the Council Prime replied. Young Kai has reminded us that some things are more important than efficiency. The Luminid representative suddenly pulsed with brilliant light. If we are abandoning logic for sentiment, then I choose to abandon it completely. Her energy form expanded as she interfaced with the station's power grid. Redirecting primary energy reserves to the rescue fleet, they will have the power they need to save everyone. The Kalari delegates' thousands of voices joined in harmony. The hive mind has reached consensus. We choose to embrace the irrationality of hope over the rationality of despair. Our biotechnology ships are deploying emergency life support systems. The Nexari delegate's mechanical form reconfigured itself as he accessed every computation network available. If emotional decision-making produces better outcomes than logical analysis, then perhaps our definition of logic is incomplete. Calculating. Optimal rescue scenarios now. Even the Depth's representative found herself moved by the sudden transformation around her. Our biological adaptation ships can modify themselves to carry far more passengers than normal capacity allows. We choose to risk our vessels for beings we have never met. The chamber filled with activity as the 5 most advanced civilizations in the galaxy mobilized their considerable resources for a rescue mission that violated every principle of cost-benefit analysis they had followed for millennia. Maria felt tears in her eyes as she watched the aliens discover what humans had always known, that some things were worth doing simply because they were right, not because they were profitable or efficient. Lisa clapped her hands with delight. They're going to save the children. The magic people are going to help. Jake beamed with pride. I knew they were good guys, really. They just forgot for a while. Within 30 minutes, the most advanced rescue fleet in galactic history was racing toward Hope's journey. Zephyrian matter manipulators prepared to rebuild the ship's failing systems. Luminid energy beings carried portable power sources that could sustain a city. Kalari biotechnology created temporary living spaces that could support any form of life. Nexari computation networks calculated solutions to problems before they occurred. Depth's adaptation specialists prepared to modify their ships to carry impossible passenger loads. Captain Carter's voice crackled through the communication system with amazement. Dr. Santos, I don't know what you said to them, but the entire council fleet just appeared on our sensors. They're telling us to stand back and let them handle the evacuation. This is incredible. The rescue operation that followed would be remembered throughout galactic history as the day the Council remembered its heart. All 847 refugees were safely evacuated in record time, with the advanced alien technologies working in perfect harmony to save every single life. As the news of the successful rescue spread through the chamber, Council Prime Zex-9 approached Maria and the children. Her crystalline form had settled into warm golden hues that spoke of joy and newfound purpose. Dr. Santos, the Council has reached a unanimous decision regarding humanity's application for membership. Maria held her breath, knowing that the fate of her entire species hung on the next words. We offer humanity not merely membership in the Council, but a permanent seat with special advisory status on all matters involving the protection of vulnerable populations across the galaxy. You have shown us that true advancement is not measured by what we can build, but by whom we choose to protect. The chamber erupted in celebration as beings from hundreds of worlds applauded the decision. But for Maria, the most important reaction came from the 4 children in her care. Jake jumped up and down with excitement. "We did it! We're space heroes now!" Lisa hugged her stuffed rabbit and smiled at all the aliens who had become friends. "I told you they were nice." Kai stood tall with quiet pride, knowing that his story had helped save not just the refugees, but had changed the course of galactic civilization. Amy gurgled happily and reached toward Council Prime Zex-9, who gently extended a crystal finger for the baby to grasp. "There is one condition to our offer," Zex-9 added with what might have been humor. "Humanity must continue to send representatives who remember what we have learned today. We request that Dr. Santos become our first human ambassador, and that she continue to bring the wisdom of children to our deliberations." Maria looked down at the 4 children who had changed the galaxy simply by being themselves. "I accept, on behalf of all humanity. But I have a condition of my own." "Name it," Zex-9 replied. "From now on, children are always welcome in council chambers, not just human children, children from every species. It's time the galaxy's leaders remembered what they're fighting to protect." As Maria prepared to take humanity's place among the stars, Jake tugged at her sleeve. "Mama Maria, are we going home now?" She knelt down to his level, Amy still in her arms, Lisa and Kai gathering close. "Yes, sweetheart, we're going home. And now we can help make sure all the children in the galaxy have a safe home too." The council watched as the human ambassador departed, not with fanfare or ceremony, but with the quiet dignity of someone.